The United States President Donald Trump's disapproval rating soared to 54% after his first 6 months in office amidst tariff threats and massive deportations. In Argentina, President Javier Milei faces negative ratings of 53% disapproval and a growing opposition. In Palestine, the United Nations reported that 69 Palestinian communities in the occupied West Bank have been displaced since 2023 due to escalating violence by Israeli settlers. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. U.S. President Donald Trump celebrated his 6th month in office on his social media, yet his disapproval ratings for the first semester of his term reached 54%. Trump spent this Sunday publishing a barrage of conspiratorial ideas, while claiming that he had made the United States the most respected country in the world. In reality, the burden of his image, according to opinion polls, has dragged down the country's image worldwide. For example, in Mexico and Canada, they now see their neighbor as a national security and economic risk. In addition to tariffs, tax and federal cuts, and the savage hunt for migrants, the impact on individual citizens due to cuts in key programs is reflected in the overwhelming drop in the president's popularity. Argentine President Javier Milei also faces negative ratings of 53% disapproval. Argentine experts say politics in the South African nation is defined by the negative, and that the anti-Milei tendency has surpassed the anti-Kirchnerism, which registers a little over 45%. Precisely when comparing both trends, rejection for the current president grows, while rejection for Kirchnerism decreases. A Suban Córdoba firm study highlights that libertarian supporters decreased by 4.3% and opposition to liberty advances increased by 7.1%. As for the electoral data, 38.3% of those polled said they would vote again for President Milei, but 52.8% said they would use their vote against him. And in Colombia, President Gustavo Petro inaugurated the 2025-2026 plenary Congress with an assessment of the government projects carried out during his administration. During his speech, President Petro highlighted the progress made in health and defense, celebrating the result of a public policy focused on prevention, strengthening care, and direct investment in communities. Regarding the defense sector, the head of state highlighted the process of progressive modernization of the military forces and a change in the strategic approach to the armed conflict in the country, rejecting the political and judicial persecution suffered by the opposition sectors in previous governments. And Colombia commemorated the 215th anniversary of its independence from the Spanish Empire with a military parade. From the Bay of Santa Marta, President Gustavo Petro led the military activity with more than 1,000 uniformed men and his executive cabinet. The Colombian president highlighted the struggle of the independence heroes, among them Venezuelan Simón Bolívar, who defeated the Kingdom of Spain's hegemony. The head of state said that despite political differences, a great nation, the new great Colombia, can be created. And in Venezuela, National Electoral Council President Elvis Amoroso inspected the pre-delivery auditorium for voting machines as part of the schedule being implemented prior to the 2025 municipal elections, as well as the national youth consultation. Amoroso spoke with technicians about the audit process, in addition to verifying the machine system to ensure the optimal conduct of next Sunday's elections, in which 335 mayors and more than 2,400 councillors will be elected. This audit is part of the verification of the accuracy of the right to vote, the counting, transmission, and totalization, with the objective of ensuring the transparency and reliability of the electoral system.
This audit is one of the most important, as it provides comprehensive testing of all components of the election solution. In a sample of a significant percentage of voting machines per state, selected in the production process, which contain the same configuration as those deployed in all states and municipalities of the country.
In the Dominican Republic, social and feminist movements demonstrated to demand a dignified penal code free of privileges. A broad coalition of social organizations gathered in front of the National Palace to reject the penal code reform bill currently being debated by Congress, considering it a step backwards in terms of human rights and social justice. Demonstrators denounced that the legislative proposal perpetuates privileges for political and economic sectors while criminalizing social protests and unprotecting victims of gender violence. The reform, which will be voted in second reading in the next few days, has deepened tensions between progressive sectors and conservative blocs that insist on approving it without modifications. Now we have a short break coming up, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. We will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, the United Nations reported that 69 Palestinian communities in the occupied West Bank have been displaced since 2023 due to escalating violence by Israeli settlers. According to a statement from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in Palestine, approximately 2,895 Palestinians have been forced to leave their homes in the past 2 years. OSHA attributes this displacement to a corrosive environment fostered by increasing settler violence and restrictions on access to land and resources. The report indicates that 45% of displaced families are from Ramallah Governorate and seven other governorates. Furthermore, data from the Palestinian Authorities War and Settlement Resistance Commission reveals that more than 2,153 settler assaults took place in the first half of 2025. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees has issued a new call for global action to address Israel's blockade of aid to the Gaza Strip. In a social media post on Sunday, UNRWA chief Philip Lazzarini revealed that the agency has not been able to deliver any aid to Gaza since March 2nd. In this sense, Lazzarini noted that food supplies are just a few kilometers away, emphasizing that UNRWA has enough reserves outside Gaza to sustain the entire population for the next 3 months. Lazzarini also called the situation a man-made crisis facilitated by the impunity afforded to the Israeli regime and stressing the urgent need for political intervention to end the current starvation. It is important to note that in the last 24 hours, Gaza has reported 18 more starvation-related deaths, bringing the total since October 2023 to 86, including 76 children. And in Palestine, the Israeli siege and systematic use of hunger as a weapon of war has left more than 900 civilians killed, 6,011 wounded, and 45 missing in the Gaza Strip. Gaza Health Ministry reported that the victims tried to get food and water in different areas of the enclave, while Israel continues with blockade of food, medicine, and international aid. They also warned that at least 17,000 infants were diagnosed with severe malnutrition, various of them under treatment for stress and memory loss caused by hunger. Health personnel in the Gaza Strip are currently treating hundreds of people of all ages with symptoms of acute famine amid constant Israeli bombing. And human rights organizations have reported that Israel is holding over 3,600 civilians incarcerated without trial under the pretense of the Zionist regime's policy of arbitrary detention. According to the Information Office on Palestinian Prisoners, many detainees are denied access to legal defense or family visits. The report reveals that in clear violation of international law, 37% of Palestinian children arrested by the occupation forces have no formal charges or due process. Since the beginning of the genocidal aggression against Gaza in October 2023, the Israeli regime has intensified this practice, filling its prisons with Palestinian civilians in an attempt to break the resistance and consolidate its illegal occupation. And in this regard, the United Kingdom is facing a lawsuit filed by the law firm Milei for refusing to transfer seriously ill Palestinian children despite the collapse of healthcare in the Gaza Strip. The complaint filed against the Interior and Foreign Ministries alleges discrimination by comparing this refusal with previous evacuations approved in other conflict areas. In this regard, the plaintiffs accuse London of ignoring the absence of medical options in Gaza, where the health system collapsed after months of siege and Israeli attacks. In this sense, the government must submit its formal response to the court proceedings by July 28th. In other topics, in Syria, the media reported the death toll from violence in the country rose to 1,119 in the province of Al-Suwaida. The report detailed that 289 civilians have died amid the escalation of violence, as well as 427 fighters of the self-defense units died defending the region. Casualties among Syrian forces total 394, including members of the Defense Ministry's Special Forces, pro-government militiamen from Arab tribes, and members of the Internal Security Forces. The clashes reflect the complex situation in the area, where armed groups have intensified their attacks, generating a serious humanitarian crisis. Iran resumes talks with the European Troika focused on the nuclear agreement. Tehran agreed to resume nuclear talks with the United Kingdom, France, and Germany in a new planned round at Deputy Foreign Ministers level. According to the Iranian authorities, the dialogue will focus on the role of the European countries in the nuclear agreement, as well as the issue of the activation mechanism. The negotiations will also be independent from Iran's indirect talks with the United States, since the European Troika continues to be part of the nuclear agreement, and Iran demands that these countries fully comply with their commitments. And Iran and Russia will conduct joint naval exercises in the Caspian Sea, strengthening strategic cooperation between both countries. Iranian media announced that the exercises will involve units of the Islamic Republic's Navy, the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps, and the Russian Navy, coordinated by the Northern Iranian Fleet. They also detailed that the exercises will start this Monday and will be focused on rescue operations and maritime protection in the strategic Caspian Sea. This military cooperation between Tehran and Moscow reflects both countries' determination to counter foreign interference and ensure stability in the region, in line with their strategic alliance against hostile Western policies. Now, have our second short break coming up. We invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, don't go away. Welcome back. 30 months before the general elections in Honduras, a climate of tension marked by media attacks, leaks, and smear campaigns is trying to discourage the vote and disqualify candidates. Our colleague Karim Duarte with the details.
The country is facing a series of media attacks based on the leaking of audios, videos, and photographs motivated by dirty electoral campaigns that only seek to discredit political candidates at all costs and generate uncertainty.
The current situation is generating a lot of uncertainty. The various scenarios that we are seeing every day, unfortunately, all of them are negative, are giving us the path that the people of Honduras want. Lo que deseamos nosotros y el pueblo hondureño con su mayoría.
What we and the majority of the people of this country want: transparent and clean elections. This guarantees our democracy, guarantees the peace we are enjoying.
Toda incertidumbre afecta a la que es la economía.
En medio del cruce de acusaciones, el Partido Nacional...
In the middle of the cross accusations, the National Party criticizes the ruling party for the alleged use of its collectives to exert political pressure. However, the National Party itself is carrying out a strong offensive based on the dissemination of false news that polarizes even more the electoral scenario.
It
is obvious that if one is not afraid, one would not have to resort to violence, one would not have to resort to their collectives, one would not have to be afraid of electoral processes aimed at their verification and modernization.
encaminados a la verificación y a la modernización del mismo.
En este contexto, los expertos aconsejan...
In this context, experts advise presidential candidates to prepare for the debates and use digital platforms strategically and responsibly.
Tenemos muchísima información. Los jóvenes tienen una inmediatez en
We have a lot of information. Young people have an incredible immediacy of information, and they are very aware of the value or the positions that any presidential candidate may take in this race.
Que pueda llevar cualquier candidato presidencial en esta...
Look well that not only in the television debate, a presidential debate can be carried out.
No solo en el debate de televisión, un debate presidencial.
There are thousands of technological ways in which the candidates can promote their different positions and their goals to be achieved in the period that they will govern. Elections, people voting.
Estas posiciones y sus metas a lograr en el periodo que ellos gobiernen.
A pocos meses de la cita electoral, analistas advierten que...
A few months before the elections, analysts warn that dirty campaigns and media attacks could increase, affecting the credibility of the process and weakening citizen participation at the polls.
Para teleSUR, desde Tegucigalpa, Honduras, Karim Duarte.
Typhoon Wipa was approaching west and southwest Vietnam, impacting at least 18 provinces and cities with strong winds and torrential rains. According to the National Hydrometeorological Forecast Center, Wipa was located east of the North Vietnamese province of Quang Ninh, a phenomenon sustaining winds of up to 88 kilometers per hour and gusts of 116 kilometers per hour. Wipa is forecast to make landfall in the northern coastal areas and in the capital Hanoi this evening time. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh issued a directive to implement emergency measures, while Vietnam Airlines and its subsidiaries have adjusted their flights to ensure safety. Wipa is expected to gradually weaken to a tropical depression on Wednesday and dissipate over Laos on Thursday, July 24th. The death toll in South Korea has risen to 17 as a result of torrential rains that have hit the country this week. The authorities continue with the search and rescue efforts, especially in the most affected areas, and warn that the number of victims could continue to increase while at least 12 people are missing. According to civil protection reports, Sencheon County in the south of the country has been one of the hardest hit areas, concentrating the highest proportion of victims with 10 dead and 4 missing persons. The magnitude of the environmental catastrophe also led to the evacuation of a total of 13,492 people from 9,782 homes in 15 cities and provinces. And in Indonesia, a ferry fire left at least 5 people dead and several injured. Authorities reported that more than 284 people were evacuated while rescue operations continued. The Coast Guard, Navy, Maritime Safety Agency and Search Agency are involved in the rescue efforts. Maritime accidents are common in Indonesia due to poor infrastructure related to passenger and cargo loading, as well as non-compliance with maritime and river safety regulations. The 35th Hong Kong Book Fair is taking place in China with more than 20,000 texts available for visitors. The event is held at the Convention and Exhibition Center of the city under the theme Gastronomic Culture, Future Life. where publishers from all over the country share their most outstanding works, both classics and novelties of Chinese literature, including themes on politics, culinary culture, comics, science fiction, stories, and more. This year, the fair is dedicated to Sichuan province, highlighting its rich history and characteristic elements such as gastronomy, opera, and embroidery. The Hong Kong Book Fair 2025 will continue to be open to the public until July 22nd, with more than 620 cultural activities. The 29th edition of the La Paz International Book Fair will be held in Bolivia on the occasion of the country's bicentennial. This year, the fair that will be held from July 30th to August 10th at the Chuquiagomarca Fairgrounds will offer more than 570 cultural activities, including conferences, workshops, and book presentations. The event will count with the participation of more than 20 international guests, highlighting France as guest of honor, and 200 new works in various literature genres will be presented. The fair consolidates as an important event for culture and literature in Bolivia. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.